I wouldn't bet against Ford. This is a small team that did this product. This is America's best-selling vehicle. We're electrifying it. We're having 200,000 orders.
Ford has faced numerous problems last year when it comes to its quality control. In fact, Ford has been named the car manufacturer that has issued the most recalls in 2022. Recalls that are this frequent could damage the company's reputation significantly and could lower its sales figures and popularity among buyers. But why are these recalls actually happening? Join us as we explore the real reasons behind Ford's recalls. According to a dataset released by the United States Department of Transportation on Monday, Ford issued 67 recalls during the previous year, making them by far the most recalled auto manufacturer, as they had a full 22 recalls more than the second-placed Volkswagen, which had a total of 45. Out of these 67 recalls, a whopping 12 were powertrain-related, which is nothing shy of catastrophic. 8 more were issued because of faults that concerned the sensors and cameras, and the rest were mostly electrical issues which, while expected, is still too big a number to be absolved. I mean, it's only 5 recalls less than the total amount of recalls of the second-placed Volkswagen. Not to mention that Ford has been known for their issues concerning quality control and catastrophic factory failures throughout the brand's history. One of the most infamous cases ever recorded in the car industry is a disaster with their Ford Pinto back in the 1970s. The Ford Pinto was an economy car that was vastly popular due to its extremely low price and, of course, because of the brand, which at the time was one of the most beloved in the world. However, the Ford Pinto was extremely flawed and unsafe from the factory. Namely, its fuel tank was positioned between the rear axle and the utmost rear of the car just behind the rear bumper. This means that if the car got into a rear-end collision, the fuel tank could get pierced or bent to the point that it started leaking, which would then combust and the car would therefore start burning. This was a humongous safety hazard, and many of the Ford Pinto's occupants were injured because of the factory oversight. However, instead of recalling and fixing their vehicle, Ford decided that the most affordable thing to do was to actually pay out the societal cost to the people that were injured, or even worse, compared to recalling their vehicles and fixing the problem. It would take a couple of years before Ford was pressured into actually recalling the Pinto, and their reputation was thoroughly ruined because of their lack of effort. So, thanks to our previous knowledge that Ford and their QC, we really aren't that surprised that they're the first when it comes to the frequency of recalls. Why are those recalls happening? Believe it or not, there's a myriad of reasons why. However, they all share the same root, and that is the fact that Ford is ramping up their production, while at the same time also completely changing their philosophy of making cars. You see, Ford has been experiencing a renaissance, as their production has completely shifted from making all sorts of vehicles to making exclusively SUVs, with the exception of the all-new Ford Mustang. They consider SUVs and crossovers the way of the future, and the radical change is taking a toll on the manufacturer. Also, apart from this, Ford is also converting their Oakville assembly plant to produce all-electric vehicles only. Oh, and let's not forget Ford's hyper-production, which is larger than ever. When a manufacturer starts making vehicles in larger quantities than expected, mistakes are bound to happen. They're completely stretched thin, and they're trying to achieve more than they actually can. Add to this fact that the world has been through an extreme economic crisis for the past 3 years, which results in lower quality materials and products being used in cars, and even complete stoppages of production. And then combine all that with Ford's questionable track record, and you'll understand why Ford has its overall quality control problem. What do you think of Ford's quality control? Are they really as bad as people say? Or do you think that this is just a run of bad luck for the company? And would you buy a Ford truck these days? Be sure to let us know in the comment section down below. How many cars have been affected by these recalls? An astounding number of cars were actually impacted by quality control issues in the past year, most of which were severe enough for a recall. In fact, they've recalled over 634,000 SUVs only this November. The problem was with the 1.5-liter turbocharged inline 3 that can be found in the Ford Escape and Ford Bronco Sport. These vehicles were plagued with fuel injector failures, and some of them even cracked, making the car seriously unsafe. And the hazards are similar to the Pintos, as the car can combust, seriously threatening the occupant's safety. Nobody was hurt, thankfully, but a catastrophic issue like this should not have happened at all. That's not all, as there was a recall in April concerning both oil leakage and sensor failures. A whopping 733,000 vehicles were recalled. And the worst part of this is the fact that some of them, particularly the Ford Bronco Sport, even got recalled for the second time a couple of months later, during the aforementioned November recall. The Bronco Sport itself is a prime example of how low Ford has fallen, as it's one of the most anticipated and beloved vehicles when it initially came out, as it was a rugged-looking crossover SUV that shared its nameplate with the legendary Ford Bronco, only for it to turn out to be a complete catastrophe when it comes to overall reliability and control. Apart from the Bronco Sport, the Ford Mustang Mach-E, Ford's flagship EV, also had a number of issues and complaints when it comes to the build quality and overall fit and finish. To be honest, this is the company's first EV. However, this shouldn't be an excuse for issues that are bodywork related, which the Mach-E suffers from in huge numbers. Overall, the total number of vehicles that were made by Ford and that are potentially affected by reliability and quality issues in 2022, some of which did and some of which could be recalled, equals 8,636,265, according to the NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. This is simply unacceptable. Even though many of the issues are small and insignificant, a manufacturer that is as influential as Ford is should never allow themselves to reach a low that they did during this year. Plus, Ford had a similar problem with the aforementioned Pinto, and therefore we wouldn't bet on their honesty and good-heartedness, since they've already proven that they periodically don't care for their customers. A true shame, and something that should neither be expected nor accepted from a car manufacturer as big and as popular as Ford is. They should have known better. Granted, most of these vehicles were made during the 2020-2022 period, which was the last stable period for the company, thanks to the previously mentioned economic crisis. And before we completely write off Ford, we have to give out credit where credit is due. Ford has been trying hard to fix their mistakes. In a recent interview, CEO Jim Farley said fixing quality was the brand's #1 priority, and that the company is doing what it can to mitigate and fix as much as they can, as fast as they can. However, he also said that it will take at least a couple of years to make it right, as the company is overloaded at the moment. Numerous other manufacturers experienced similar hardships. One of these was none other than Toyota, as its CEO had made a huge mistake recently that threatens to cost the company dearly. If you'd like to learn more about this, make sure to click on the link that's on your screen now. But on the other hand, numerous other manufacturers experienced similar or even worse hardships, and they still managed to get on top of things. The majority of Japanese car manufacturers are doing what they can so that they can pump out as many cars as they can and make them as good as they can. So even though we do understand the notion behind Ford's problems and the reasoning behind their overall drop in quality and reliability, we still believe that they should be condemned for their behavior and stance towards their customers. But let's hope that they'll come to their senses and actually start caring for their loyal customers.